I wish there was a way to know this thing was on, because I can't see the back of it, which is where it says whether it's on. Okay, this is a view from Crowhill again. I'm looking at this article on Bloomberg. Arctic sea ice underestimated for weeks due to faulty sensor. Okay, so people thought that 500,000 square kilometers of ice were gone, California-sized area, and it really wasn't gone. These kind of stories come up from time to time. We find out, oh my gosh, there's no ice, or oh my gosh, there's more ice, or a polar bear drowned, or something, and people immediately come back and say, it's proof of global warming, or it's proof that global warming is a crock, or whatever. Okay, let's stop and get sort of the bird's eye view of Earth's climate. Earth has been very hot. You know, when you see those pictures with the dinosaurs and the ferns everywhere and all that. And Earth has been very cold. You know, when you see pictures of the caveman, right? We've had ice ages. We've had warmer times. Climate kind of changes back and forth on its own. We don't really understand why. It might have to do with solar output. There's some good evidence that has to do with things about that. It might have to do with slight changes in the Earth's orbit. It might have to do with changes in ocean currents. You know, you look at a globe sometime and look at England, and you would think England ought to be darn cold. You take England and you kind of go over to the side and see where that would be in North America, and you think, good grief, it should be really cold up there. But it's not, because of this huge current that comes from the Gulf of Mexico and gets all this warm water and goes on up there and warms up England. Now, if that were to stop, if that current were to start going a different direction for some crazy reason, England would get really cold really fast. And a lot of global climate things have to do with these big circulations of warm water and warm air going in different directions. It's a very complicated system. So from kind of 10,000 feet, we look back and we say, you know, climate's a pretty complicated thing. And sometimes it's been warmer, sometimes it's been colder. Okay, so now, global warming. What's the whole big deal about global warming? Is the globe warming? Well, if you look at just the plain old temperature readings, it looks like there's been some warming recently. But then you have to ask yourself, wait a minute, is this ground level warming, or is this atmospheric warming? There's a big difference between the two. It's very important to keep the two distinct, because ground level warming might have more to do with just human activity. It doesn't really affect the climate as much. As a matter of fact, if you look at some of the global warming skeptics and what they say about global warming, they say that if global warming was really happening the way that the Al Gore types are saying, then you should have more upper atmosphere warming than we have. And they say the disparity between the two confirms their skepticism of global warming. But the question is, are we doing something to warm the globe? Can we, is that a bad thing? And can we stop it? Well, okay, CO2, of course, is a greenhouse gas. What that means is when light comes in from the sun to the earth, warms the earth, and then the heat rises, the CO2 helps to capture the heat and keep it in the atmosphere. Now that's true, CO2 is a greenhouse gas. So you would think if you add CO2 to the atmosphere, that's going to warm things up. True. But there are a lot of other things that are much more powerful greenhouse gases than CO2. Water vapor is a really big one. Water vapor is way, way more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2 is. Then you have other factors. You have how much does the ocean absorb? And there's also this question of feedback. If you increase CO2, what's going to happen? Is it going to increase algae, which is then going to recycle the CO2? So it's just a very, very complicated thing. And my big concern with the whole global warming hysteria is first that people are acting as if the climate in 1972 is the gold standard. That's the way Earth's climate is supposed to be, doggone it. If the sea level goes up or down from that, or if temperature goes up or down from that, then that's bad and we have to stop it. Well, that's stupid. There is no gold standard for climate. Climate has moved all over the place. The other concern I have is this idea that, well, we need to sort of shut down industrialized society so that we can prevent this global warming. Well, first of all, we can't shut down industrialized society. Even if we could in the United States, which we can't, but even if we could, we're not going to stop India and China from doing what they're doing. So all we're going to do is bankrupt the United States and let India and China become the new superpowers. That doesn't seem like a very good idea to me. The next problem with global warming is we don't really know, even if we do everything that Al Gore wants, whether it's really going to make any difference, or whether it's going to make 1/100th of a difference. And then the last thing that we don't know is global warming might be a very good thing. In the past, when the climate has been warmer, it's been good for humans. It would open up a lot of areas. Now, it's true that if the sea level were to rise, then low-lying areas would now be underwater. That's bad. But then other areas, like Siberia, might become good for agriculture. So it's very hard to say that this change in temperature, if it's really occurring, is a bad thing. So we don't really know if it's a bad thing. We don't really know if men have caused it, and we don't really know if we can do anything about it, even if men have caused it. So the whole thing is being obviously driven by some other reason than concern about humanity, concern about the climate. I think what it is it's just sort of this anti-human mentality that a lot of people on the left have. It's oh my gosh, humans are messing everything up. And that's what global warming is really all about. And we need to get over that. We need to realize that, humans have a right to exist like anybody else, and we're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to do what's in our best interest. Now, okay, having said all that, should we be dumping all this stuff into the atmosphere? No, we shouldn't. We don't understand how the climate works. We don't understand the impact of what dumping all this CO2 into the atmosphere is. So we really should try not to do that. We should look for other solutions. We should go for nukes. We should go for wind power. We should go for solar power. We should go for tidal power. We should go for any other kind of power that we can get. Absolutely. But, the thing that is most closely related to human well-being is prosperity. And if we clamp down on power plants and say, we're not going to have gasoline cars anymore, and we're not going to have coal-powered plants and all this, we're going to try to clamp down and do everything that Kyoto wants and Al Gore wants, that's going to lower our prosperity. That's going to lower our standard of living. And that's going to hurt humans far more than any 1 or 2 degree increase in global temperature.